Thank you, everybody. So I'm Jeremy Holiman. I oversee Shardeum's people and talent operations, and we're here to talk about scalability and how security plays into it. And so generally, I think about scalability probably pretty different than this conversation is going to go. But I'd like to think that at Shardeum we put as much thought into like the architecture and design of our people org as we do into our tech, whether it's people teams or nodes. So with that said, like I said, we're going to be talking about scalability, how it has evolved, how does security play into it, and how we should be thinking about L1s, L2s, and L3s. Thank you for the hint. Just maybe we do some quick reintroductions of you two, and then Nathan, just for people who have showed up later.
Sure. My name is James, founder and CEO on DFG, so co-founder and chair of JSquare, so we operate into investment firm.
James, and lead the business development team at Axelar.
Nathan, co-founder and COO of Secure3, a decentralized auditing platform.
Awesome, thank you. We're going to start off with Axelar. So how does Axelar address the scalability part of the Trilemma?
Yeah, so for us, this honestly relates to a piece that I was ending on the last conversation, which is about like being receptive to the market and understanding that we need to move priorities from an engineering perspective to address these issues. One of them being scalability. So little tidbit about that, like we were adding L1s and L2s to the network sequentially, meaning our core team needed to actually deploy contracts for us to be able to support a new network. And that clearly wasn't going to allow us to scale at the speed at which quality L1s and L2s were coming to market. So what do we have to do? We worked very hard on building a permissionless model that will allow teams to actually instantiate their own connections permissionlessly, interact with our validator set in order to incentivize them to come support the network. So for us, it's very much about looking inward and turning products outward that can be permissionless. And so it's the same thing that comes to the validator set that Nishal was talking about. The advantages of how you scale quickly are by making things permissionless so that the central entity that is operating the business doesn't become a choke point. And so that's central to the way that we're scaling as well.
Awesome, thanks for that. For you, James, how do you think about scalability when considering an investment?
Yeah, I think that's a good angle, because just imagine scalability is actually the main kind of alpha in the next and last bull run, right? So if you talk about investment, for sure Bitcoin Ether price goes up in the last bull run, but if we getting early into a bunch of layer 1 token like Solana, Avalanche in the early stage, actually the returns better than Bitcoin and Ether, right, in the last bull run. So what is the angle for that is scalability, because Ethereum cannot scale. You need all these kind of comparator. So that is really the alpha in the last bull run. But we're gonna see things play slightly differently in the next bull run, because you just cannot simply repeating that, right? So what happened in the next bull market is, it's not simply you creating a story like, Solana or Avalanche, then you just say it's faster than Ether, right? So it's not going to work that way. So unless you really solve the problem of scalability, you make sure there's some application could do massive adoption really. Otherwise, I don't think the narrative works anymore. It needs to be solved on a fundamental layer, which is the technology, right? So once you solve that, the problem either Ethereum plus layer 2 or our layer 1, whatever that is, then we can see probably the next alpha for the investment is there. Let's assume Bitcoin and Ether investment are the beta for the index for the market, but that next alpha is there. If we really solve the scalability issues on tech side, then people should really invest in.
Awesome, thanks for that. How do you think security plays into that?
So basically, the scalability and security actually contains two perspectives, from my opinion. Because this morning, Offchain Lab released like an estimate of a number of solidity deaths in total in this world. So they said roughly 20K. Our estimate, based on our auditor data, is roughly 30 to 35K, which is like around the same magnitude. So definitely, when people are achieving, because one of the main mission of both like Shardeum, also Axelar, also for us, to like achieve for the massive adoption of the whole blockchain technology into like the traditional business, into Web2 business, so on and so forth. So the security provider and actually the transfer of the knowledge to the regular developer, because I mean the number of people who actually know how to code in C++, number of people who know how to code in Python is like way larger than the Solidity devs. So I mean this is one like critical thing in terms of the bottleneck of the scalability. And the second, in terms of the security, because there's a trade-off between, like, for people who are talking about L1s, L2, or even hyperchains in L3, right? So L3, in order to make sure that more and more people are able to build on top of it, they make multiple compromises. So for instance, they allow people to customize a customized feature using other languages than Solidity. So there might be like built-in features, or so basically it's like plug and play for you to, how to say, for the regular devs to use to use the blockchain actually as an SDK. So there might be like internal issues where like unforeseen internal flaws during the customization. For instance, I mean, people never code like in Python, right? For the blockchain projects, right? There might be unforeseen like edge cases that people are facing. So we need more and more like more and more like reports. Also more and more like more vibrant developer community in order to achieve that.
Awesome, thank you. Preempted my next question a little bit, but would love to hear some additional comments on, and thank you for that. How do you see L1s, 2s, 3s, and dApp chains evolving, and what part of scalability challenges do they seek to solve?
Yeah, happy to start that out. I think we've seen a shift in kind of like that thought process, even over the last 12 to 18 months. I think we saw a lot of momentum moving towards the app chain thesis. We saw a lot of momentum moving out of Solidity, and now we're seeing a contraction back to Solidity-based and EVM development. And I think that for an infrastructure partner like us, and that's all I can talk about, we have to be nimble to move with those communities and help them solve those issues. So when we talk about like scalability, it's also about like having optionality and being in a position that we can move with the market quickly, and that's how we see it. So if you look at the network that we've built to date, it's mainly IBC Cosmos chains and EVM chains, and we're doing our work now to create custom modules to support Rust chains, Move chains, and be in a position that not necessarily are we making a bet in the medium term on where that's going, but we have the modularity in our tech stack to scale with wherever the market dictates, and wherever users end up is how we want to be in a position to scale and scale securely. James?
Yeah, I can definitely follow up on top of that, because I mean a lot of people were saying because Solidity, or like EVM, they have the most liquidity provider, because I was in Kyoto last month for the IBS crypto, and a lot of like non-Solidity project were like complaining about the lack of liquidity providers, so on and so forth. I mean, the most important reason, that's my opinion, is that there's no like single layer 2 or layer 3 and say, hey, we are the end game, right? We provide like 2 magnitudes higher in TPS so that everyone can just use it. Of course, for the Rust or even Go or Python or TypeScript, if you're able to provide like 2 magnitudes higher or 3 magnitudes higher TPS, everyone will just like shift to you, right? It's not something like formal verification that it's not even an engineering skill to transfer to, right? It's not hard for like Solidity devs to learn to code in Rust, because actually people code in C++ first, oftentimes, or Python first, instead of like delving into Solidity. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that in terms of security perspective, L2s, because I would say a lot of like L2s, they have their own like edge cases that they need to resolve, like the floating point issue in some TK rollups, also some compatibility issues in some other like OP rollups. So for the security researchers, they need to delve into like those like really detailed like aspects, and even the developer community need to help them actually to test all of the edge cases. Because I mean, as the developer or as the builder of an infrastructure, you might not be able to test all of the from the application perspective, right? Because there are like use cases for like specifically for some like game for some game feature, right? As a like ZK expert, you might never thought in this like you might never think about from this perspective, and your developer test it out and roll it back to you and say, hey, you need to revise this. So continuously updating all of those like L2 infrastructure is like always the solution to that.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I was share a little bit from the other perspective. I see a lot of app chain being pretty popular in the permit market. You know, a lot of Cosmos actually, you know, app chains use Tendermint like raise a lot of money. But one thing I don't understand is like, you know, if you call app chain, but I don't see really a lot of app on the chain, right? So that's the problem here. So unless you can find really an angle which building a lot of application can bring massive adoption in the next ball run. Otherwise, I don't think a lot of makes sense, right? So I think, you know, we talk a lot about infrastructure, but on the application side, we really need something more innovative. Because we are, you know, just imagine these days, you know, there are very few discussion about application right now. DeFi is solid, you know, but if you check the yield on MakerDAO, whatever, RV, whatever, it's lower than banks, right? If you talk about the others, NFT market it's so bad right now. So we need new narratives, we need new product, but we need new sector, whether that's SocialFi, whatever. But we need applications which bring massive adoption, which brings new users outside of crypto industry into the industry. So that's the ultimate goal. So I think we should talk more about applications instead of just building different kind of app chains saying, you know, we are doing this specific for application, but we need to see the application and the real use cases for that.
Amazing. That's actually a good segue into our last question. What is the next big challenge that the Web3 community should be focusing on? And maybe if we go back to you, James, what's your team really excited about in the space, and where are you looking to invest?
Yeah, anything I think solve the real problem in the industry. One thing we don't like is really simply copy the model of one whatever you're, you know, kind of building exactly the same thing in different ecosystem. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. You need to be very, very innovative and finding new, you know, angles and which, you know, just imagine. I think there are two reasons why Solana have such high valuation in the last bull run. One is because FTX, right, clearly. The second is because of there are still some good application on top of the Solana ecosystem in the last bull run, like Stefan, like Magic Eden, like these kind of application, which is, you know, very, very good, really attract new users outside the crypto industry to the crypto industry. So that's why, you know, I call Grab in Singapore, like once, like, you know, the driver asked me some advice about investing into crypto. So I asked him, like, what kind of coins you know? He said he know Bitcoin, Ether. I said, what else? He knows Solana. So that's the thing here. So what Solana does, I'm not saying Solana is good or bad, but at least Solana is doing pretty well in the last bull market. And this is the thing, bring the people outside the crypto community into the crypto community throughout this kind of application. So this is really something I think we will be very, very exciting on the application level. It's really about new innovative. It's not just copy other people's model and reuse that into a new ecosystem, whatever. It's really the new innovation and the application which can bring people into the crypto space. This is one thing. The second thing is about infrastructure. I think you know, team like Shardeum is super good. You are basically building brilliant technology which can, you know, kind of potentially solve the scalability issues. So this is also something we will invest. So on the application level innovation, on the infrastructure level, it's really about solid technology.
Definitely. We're really excited to enable that future.
Yeah, I think James really hit the nail on the head with his answer to the previous question as well, right? That we need applications to be built now. And like, you know, there's always like a sequence of events that takes place, and now like what's going to drive that forward, I think you like have to follow the dollar. So I'll put the impetus back on James and his colleagues, right? Like people were building infrastructure because that's where investors wanted to invest. And if investors, in my humble opinion, right, like if you pull back and you start to see the next moment for crypto being solved by application development, then you follow the dollar, and that's what's going to incentivize developers to come into the space. People that are building in Python and C++ will be interested in building these applications if they can be well-funded and have the runway to build thoughtful applications. And I think that's really the next step, because I think this bear market has seen a lot of great infrastructure be built, like Shardeum and hopefully like Axelar as well. So I'm excited to see what gets built over the next 12, 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the 5th time I was asked for the same question in the past quarter. So, I mean, my answer hasn't changed for the last quarter. So basically, first is definitely try to create the positive externality for the project itself. So, because security, Security 3 is in a very special occasion or the position of the channel that we actually can see all of the project and we can see their business logic. So basically, one example that I want to show here is actually there's a product building on-chain car insurance, which means that usually when people stake in token, they just like earn they just earn native token by like staking the value and try to be a liquidity provider. But for that car insurance protocol, you actually earn the reward by being a good driver. So basically, the incentive is very natural. Sure, you staking money, as like in real life you buy you buy the car insurance, right? I mean, you buy car insurance anyway in real world, and you earn the rewards as long as you keep yourself disciplined. You don't crush into each other. You don't like do drug driving or whatsoever. I mean, which is super popular in the U.S. nowadays. Yeah. So that's one thing, and the second thing is that for a meaningful project, you need to incorporate more and more real world value. And I would say probably the next two. I would say the next two big thing. One is the real like AAA Web3 game, and the second will be like the stuff based on IoT. So basically, because people see as James mentioned, step in, right? So step in. It only incorporates the software, it only incorporates the mobile apps and the GPS. But what if, because do you guys remember Nike Plus? That is actually in your wearables, that it record your it just record your exercise. I mean, it can also incorporate your like swimming, like basketball, because I saw multiple projects building on IoT. Very like they have like a super like sticky community, gated by NFT, or they earn token by exercising every single day, and they redeem the real like wearables using the token. So I mean, this is another perspective of positive externality. And in terms of security, definitely the next trend will be repetitively iterates that we need more supply of the auditors, more supply of the developers. Definitely, we also at the end point we need to throw away the stereotypical idea in the massive people saying that crypto is a Ponzi, right? Because if you go to Paris, like go on the street and ask people, what do you think about crypto? Well, they're hesitating, right? I mean, they try to be polite, but you know the reason behind it. Why they're hesitating. Right, so we need to create real value. We need to create positive externality, and that should be the end game.
Amazing. I don't believe everyone has gotten your contact information, but we'll be sharing afterwards. Yeah. Okay, great. How can people get in contact with Secure3?
Oh yeah, so you can definitely follow us on Twitter at Secure3IO, and you can follow me on Twitter, Nathan Secure3. So yeah, I'm pretty available. And because I'm in charge of all of the social media and of the company, so you can find me in both ways. Yes.
Very dynamic role. So we'll be having a reception over to the left. So everyone, you could head through there. Also, the exit will be through there as well. Remember to say that. And also a bunch of swag over there, so please don't forget to grab a t-shirt.
Thanks for having us.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you.
for having us.